When we talk about sustainable and circular economies in the Mediterranean region, we absolutely need to address the blue economy. We live in a region that has a rich history of economic activities that are intimately linked with the ocean, the sea, and the coast. Actually, 1 in every 3 persons living in the Mediterranean actually live near a coastal area. So it continues to be relevant and important for livelihoods, for food, and for tourism. Naturally, it is important for us to try to translate what a circular and green economic approach can mean for a blue economy, a sustainable blue economy in the Mediterranean. How can we address the need to eliminate wastes and avoid emissions and pollution? How can we design so that we have longer life cycles for products and services? These are the questions that really require that we break down silos and that we work across sectors and engage a diverse group of stakeholders. This is how we begin to really push forward innovation. The SwitchMed program has established an approach to addressing the blue economy in the Mediterranean, and it's been tested in pilot studies throughout these past 10 years. So now we have experiences to really know what is possible, and we are very lucky to have with us experts joining us to have this conversation today. Here in Barcelona, we have Alessandra Sensi, who is the head of Sector Environment, Green and Blue Economy at the Union for the Mediterranean, and previously you were the program manager of the Environment, Green Economy, Climate Change portfolio at the European Commission EuropeAid. And before that, I understand that you worked at with FAO in Rome, UNEP-JEF in Nairobi and Geneva, the Development Cooperation Office in the Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Hanoi, Vietnam, and for Eurostat, the Statistical Office of the EU in Luxembourg. Wow. Really bringing a lot of incredible experience in the region and beyond. And joining us from Vienna, Benoit Wuatelet, you are a specialist in resource-efficient industries and circular value chains in the Mediterranean, and you are currently the team leader of UNIDO SwitchMed, which is responsible for the implementation and the development of the Blue Economy initiatives in the Mediterranean region. Prior to joining UNIDO, I understand that you worked for 10 years in the private sector with a company named Suez to manage the implementation of water and wastewater infrastructure in several countries of Africa, Asia, and the Middle Eastern North African region. Throughout these years, you have been in the forefront of large-scale environmental projects, cooperating with a wide range of national, international, private, and institutional stakeholders. So this is really wonderful to have you both with us for your incredible experience that you're bringing. Thank you. One thing I want to kind of begin with is a discussion with something maybe that's very basic. Do we think that it's completely clear what the blue economy is, or maybe is not, in fact? I have heard about the blue economy in various spaces referring to things from debt swaps and blue bonds all the way to fisheries and tourism. So I want to know if maybe, Alessandra, you can kind of kick us off and help us understand a little bit about what defines the blue economy.
Thank you very much, Tasha. It's a great pleasure to be here with you and with everybody today in order to give the right focus to blue economy, in particular sustainable blue economy at Mediterranean level. This has become, over the years, the top dossier on which all the 43 Euro-Mediterranean countries that the Union for the Mediterranean represents are fully committed to. As you said at the beginning, there was this issue related to the definition of blue economy, which is in fact the sustainable use of the ocean sea related resources, with, of course, a focus on the economic aspects, and in particular with an approach to a sustainable use of the resources. So this has always been there and has been emphasized in the two declarations that the 43 countries have agreed together by consensus, first in 2015 and then in 2021. In particular, the declaration that was approved in 2021 is a major achievement for the region. It expands enormously the areas of cooperation, which were initially three, more focused, let's say, on governance, investment, research, and innovation, and are by now covering all the sectors of blue economy, ranging from marine renewable energies to sustainable tourism to marine litter, indeed investment, fisheries and aquaculture, innovation, maritime spatial planning, and so on. So we stand by the definition that the 43 Mediterranean countries have shaped together and are working together on.
Thank you. I think is really that helps a lot, because it's not just a definition, it's a definition that has been agreed upon by these 43 countries. And so that really makes us understand that it's something that is being shared and that can be more operational, because it's something that has come together. And I want to ask you, Benoit, maybe you could also take this another step further and talk about the range of sectors that are engaged in the blue economy, and specifically the ones that are maybe most interesting and relevant for small and medium-sized enterprises.
Of course. And thanks for the opportunity of talking with you, Alessandra and Tasha. I'm very pleased to be here today. I would say that our intervention is first and foremost aligned with the strategic orientations of the country we are working with, and particularly the relevant ministries. And this alignment, if we look a bit broader, they are part of the commitments towards the UN SDGs, the NDC of the Paris Agreement, or even the UFM Ministerial Declaration, as Alessandra mentioned. So at UNIDO and SwitchMed, we are very much aligned with this objective of supporting the countries in this direction. And particularly at UNIDO, within the context of SwitchMed, we are committed to supporting the industrial sector and the SMEs in transitioning to sustainable and circular practices. And the blue economy component of SwitchMed actually started in 2020, so not so long ago, but it has expanded the effort of RECP approaches towards new value chains, and particularly the aquaculture and the fisheries value chains in the Mediterranean. And now I will tell you why these two value chains and why in the two countries. So in Morocco, the fish processing sector is an important pillar. They are processing more than 1.4 million tons per year, and they are generating 2 billion of export revenues. So this sector is actually very essential pillars of the Moroccan economy. And actually Morocco has a dedicated strategy called Aliotis that purposely aim to transition the fish processing industry towards more sustainable practices. And our intervention purposely aim to bring the UNIDO RECP approach into this sector, and to see how we can create more values and optimize the waste that are generated by this industry. In the same way, in Tunisia, the aquaculture is playing an important role. If we look back, 15 years ago, in 2007, the country was producing 2,000 tons per year. Today, or in 2023 to be more precise, they are producing 23,000 tons. So it means that in 10 years, 15 years, they have increased 10 times the production capacity. And this rapid growth has actually faced a lot of challenges. The majority of inputs are imported. When I talk about inputs, are mainly fish feed and fingerlings. And actually, fish feed accounts for more than 60% of the cost. And optimizing the fish feed is actually a key parameter of sustainable aquaculture. And our approach in this value chain has aimed to promote resource-efficient and sustainable practices in this sector. And I will conclude also by saying that working on RECP and supporting the SMEs in these value chains is actually very much aligned with our UNIDO mandate, which is to promote, dynamize, and accelerate industrial development. And this is also mentioned by our DG in his motto, progress by innovation. And actually, throughout our pilot initiatives, our objective is to drive innovation and to instill new approaches in order to foster circularity and to improve the ecosystems.
Thank you for introducing that. I actually want to take it another step further because I think that this is an incredible example of a circular and sustainable blue economic approach. So maybe you could share with us a little bit about, in this project that you were referencing in Morocco, the way that you were able to address sort of creating a circular supply chain and capturing the byproduct and as waste, and then reintroducing it to the supply chain and how that may avoid some pollution or emissions and sort of the benefits. Maybe you could help explain that aspect a little bit more.
Sure, with pleasure. Actually, during 2020 and 2021, we started with the value chain mapping. The objective of this value chain mapping was to identify, to quantify, actually, the different gaps and opportunities in the different material flows. And one of the striking revelations was that the fish canning alone accounts for 94% of the waste generated by the sector. So this specific industry is actually a cornerstone in addressing the circularity of the value chain. And as we have mapped, the waste generated by this industry actually goes into the fish meal and fish oil industry. So it's already a form of valorization. Fish waste is actually producing fish meal and fish oil for the aquaculture. But actually, what we have also revealed in our mapping is that the value generated by this industry is actually very low compared to other opportunities. And that's how we have addressed our pilot, supporting the industry to create more value out of the fish byproduct. And to do so, we have implemented a pilot project in a vertically integrated group in Agadir that included fish canning, fish freezing, and fish meal, fish oil industry. So we were able to capture the different units of this value chain. And our approach was structured into two main working streams, if I can say like that. First of all, one was dedicated to RECP, which is traditionally applied by SwitchMed over the last decades. And we have been able to identify more than 40 measures that are ranging from simple good housekeeping measures, such as like process optimization, which sometimes cost zero, to more important or significant technological upgrades. And we have also explored industrial symbiosis. For example, in the effluent generated by the fish canning industry, we have been able to identify the loads that are actually creating a pollution and being able to quantify the value that can be generated if this pollution is actually re-injected for the production of fish meal and fish oil. And actually, this is a win-win approach because on one hand, it reduces the pollution, and on the other hand, it benefits economically to the company because it increased the protein content and then the market value of the product. And when we have been through this RECP audits, actually, we are talking about important figures. For the company Cibel we are working with, we talk about 7 million euro per year of economic benefits. It's quite significant. And also in terms of environmental benefits, we are talking about 200,000 cubic meter of water that can be saved, 5,000 tons of CO2 emissions that can be prevented, or even 16,000 megawatts of energy that can be preserved. So if we extrapolate that at the level of the country, the figures are really tremendous. On the other hand, we have worked on a second component, which is the valorization of the byproduct. Actually, what we have worked on is to see the byproduct not as a bulky material, but rather to see how the byproduct can be segregated at source. And then we are not talking about a waste itself, but rather a precious biomaterial. For example, fish scales can produce collagen. We have also trialed the fish heads that can produce hydrolysates that can be used in the aquaculture sector or can even be used in the agro value chain, increasing the yields for the crops, for example, and also some benefit for the to combat the water scarcity. So there is plenty of new applications that can be generated out of the fish byproduct. And finally, I will say that we have, based on our trials and the findings, we have implemented awareness-raising sessions and trainings in order to disseminate this knowledge to the industry. On the other hand, we have also created a roadmap and a set of recommendations in order to support the decision-making process. So overall, with our pilots and the approach we have over these years, we have been able to demonstrate that the Moroccan fish processing industry is really able to become more profitable and sustainable and can tap into new promising markets. And it directly goes in line with the sustainable blue economy approach, benefiting on one hand to the environment, but also increasing the economical aspect of the value chain.
I think that this is great because, having these conversations about the sustainable blue economy, we know that there needs to be a lot of engagement from the different sectors to really give it legs and to really make sure that we're seeing ourselves moving in this transition. And when you have specific examples and case studies like this beautiful example in Morocco, it's not just conceptual. There's an actual benefit. There's something being measured. There's many things being measured. There's things that we can relate to. And I think that's very, very helpful. And I appreciate you sharing with us that example. I want to ask you, Alessandra, I know that in the city of Barcelona, there's also quite a bit that is taking place that's really mobilizing the blue economy, maybe in different spaces. Maybe you could share a bit about that.
Thank you very much, Tash, and thank you very much, Benoit. I really want to echo what you said. It's very important action that SwitchMed has been carrying out all over the region at country level, contributing this way directly to the ministerial declaration, to the roadmap that the 43 countries have been agreed. And this was a pioneer exercise, let's say 10 years ago. Let's think how far we have been going when at the time, the SDGs themselves were still not agreed. So, sustainable consumption and production, resource efficiency, have become really high in the international and, of course, in the regional agenda. And all what has been, acquired in terms of experience in the Mediterranean region can indeed be upscaled to others. And among the various very active actors that we are having in the region, Barcelona, of course, shows very high. It's an extremely interesting and dynamic case. Barcelona itself has also assessed in the recent study of the Barcelona City Council is indeed a true blue economy, contributing to around 4 or 5% of its GDP and around 1.5% of its, employment in the city itself. What is amazing and actually is a fact is the partnership around blue economy that has been built very actively. Very recently in 2021, also a strategy boosting blue economy was approved, and you see all the very many different actors all be involved. Indeed, sustainable blue economy at the end is an integrated approach. So it's just a matter to make sure that all this contribution can fit in a coordinated manner and allow everybody in a certain way to contribute according to its own mandate, financial capacity, and overall technical resources. So this is what is being concretized here in Barcelona. We have As I was mentioning, indeed, strong engagement of the Port of Barcelona. We have Barcelona Activa directly contributing. We have, of course, Med Waves that together with UNIDO has been a key partner, is a key partner in all these exercise. Keeping the attention was very much on the circular aspects of blue economy. We are still into a linear one, so we are, progressively moving in that direction. We have CPRM, indeed bringing in the local dimension, MedCity, linking Barcelona with all the other Mediterranean cities. And very importantly, also recently, the WOC, the World Ocean Council, decided to establish its premises in Barcelona. The World Ocean Council represents actually the private sector. So having them also sitting in Barcelona is very important. The Union for the Mediterranean last year or 2 years ago signed a memorandum of understanding, and since then we are working very closely together. As I said, it's a big community. Very recently, Barcelona also hosted the UNESCO conference on the Ocean Decade. So, in a certain way, it's implementing all what's in the strategy, becoming a very important also regional hub for all these activities.
A hub and a leader.
Yeah, and a leader.
And a leader,
a hub and a pioneer.
Yeah,
really, it's indeed having a very prominent role in the region.
One thing that I really like what you just said is that the blue economy is an integrated approach. And I think that that's very helpful to hear it that way, because it really values the partnerships. And as you're explaining the activities, it's always bringing together the important stakeholders and members together. And I think that is something that's very important. So we can have these examples and these case studies, but then we have to, reach out and bring other people in to make sure that it's being taken up. And one thing I wanted to recognize is that in the general effort to create and sustain this transition, that we're moving towards a low carbon, sustainable, just economy for all. One thing that I think is important is the element of trust. And how we build trust is obviously through partnerships. So it's important what you're saying. I really appreciate. And I wonder if, Alessandra, if you could share with us how you believe, or your perspective on how we can take these positive case studies and examples that we have and bring them into communities and into practitioners and into different stakeholder groups to really foster the innovation and continue to push forward this transition.
Many thanks, Tasha. In fact, this is already happening. Through this trustful relation that was created over the time, which makes everybody in a certain way relax about it. There is really space for everybody, many sectors involved, many actors involved, many dimensions involved. Then everybody feels as a contribution and the possibility to be part of the mechanism. What I have to say has been very, very important over the years is indeed to institutionalize a certain mechanism, which allow all the different partners to participate. So first of all, under the UFM, we have a dedicated working group, regional platform on sustainable blue economy. So differently from other regional platforms, you have, and I would say this is a unique case, probably not only in our region, but also worldwide. Each country, each of the 43 countries is represented according to its own priority. So you have many different ministries that are there, from fishery and aquaculture to environment to planning to foreign affairs. And this indeed goes back to what I was saying, this integrated approach, which is also cross-fertilization, interministerial, but also transnational. So this has allowed a very rich exchange. This is not just, let's say, within the institutional circle. We have set up some institutional also mechanism in order to be sure that different and the widest possible range of actors and partners could be part of this mechanism. So not only through the working group, but also through dedicated stakeholders conference that we have around every 2 years. They are extremely participative. We had the last one in Athens this year. And, this is in a certain way part of each of the activities that we run according to the roadmap that the different parties together have been agreed on. So this is also a very important consultative process. It's not just decided by the authorities, it's authorities, observers, partners that come in and agree on a certain strategy to be implemented together.
I really appreciate you explaining not just what happens, but how it happens, because I think that it's important to imagine that there's representation. That's an important part of partnerships, is that you're able to be present, you're able to use your voice, and that there's information flowing, in both directions. So that's really helpful. And I think another really important thing that we're picking up on is that this transition is happening. As you were saying, this does exist. The trust building is taking place now. The transition is happening. We are in the momentum. And the SwitchMed program it has been a big part of pushing that momentum and creating that momentum, so to speak. There is a publication that I think is really noteworthy, the Circular Blue Economy for the Mediterranean. And for our listeners, we'll add a link in our show notes. But I think that this has been really helpful in researching how the circular economy can be relevant to the different sectors as blue economy, and helping to continue to pick up exactly what's taking place and develop analysis of what's happening in sectors and among sectors, which is important in terms of that representation and discussion. I wanted to turn back to you, Benoit, and ask you a little bit about your thoughts in terms of, the way that the blue economy is breaking down silos. I mean, just like you were saying, all the different ministers that are represented and who comes to the meetings according to their priorities, I think is in and of itself evidence of this. But there is this, I think it's innovative to break down silos, to be working across ministries. And maybe you could share a little bit about the work in Tunisia as well, in terms of innovation and new technologies that are being used in the blue economy space.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Thanks, Tasha, for the question. And actually, the Tunisian aquaculture case, I think, is a very self-explanatory answer to your question. In a way that when we realized the value chain mapping in the same way as we did in Morocco, we realized that the feed conversion ratio in Tunisia is actually way higher than international benchmarks. So let me explain for the non-specialist. The FCR is actually a ratio in kilogram per kilogram that determines the quantity of fish feed which is used for the fish growth, for the production. And actually, it's a key parameter. It's a key parameter for the production, but it's also a key parameter in terms of environmental footprint. If the FCR is too high, it means that there is an excess quantity of fish feed that is used and is basically not eaten by the fish and is simply falling through the cage and is creating an additional pollution in the marine ecosystems. And it can lead to eutrophisation, bloom algal. So it's actually a very, it can generate important pollution. And when we look at the trend in Tunisia with the exponential growth, this parameter is becoming a priority actually to be addressed. And to address this, we have introduced new technologies in Tunisia, and we have piloted in the Monastir Bay with a demo site, an aqua farm actually, that is partner with us. Some new technologies that are including artificial intelligence, underwater cameras, and also remote telecommunication. So when we look at the conventional aquaculture, this is totally out of the blue. We are bringing antennas at sea to live stream underwater cameras from the shore. We have an AI system that is able to, in real time, determine the biomass that is in the cage. So it's helping the aqua farmer to improve his fish feed and the quantity of feed that is required for the production. So what we can see throughout this typical example is that we have been able, throughout the pilot project, to bring new technologies into a very conventional sector. And we can see, first of all, the benefits towards the FCR, but also we can see the interest. We can see that some other farms are already interested by the technologies, as they have been very curious about it. We have organized a B2B event that has raised a lot of interest by the profession. And also an anecdote, but we have recently heard that the aqua farm we are working with has also equipped all his boats with antennas and cameras. So it also helped for him to improve his operation and surveillance. So I think, to answer your question, it's a very good example of how we can bring innovation in a conventional sector.
I appreciate that you're. This is a great example because innovation, just like positive examples, innovation moves fast. You know, when people,
Absolutely.
like you're saying about the boat, but the new technology, when it works and when innovation is applied and it's successful, everybody wants to know more and get involved. So I think that that's really helpful to imagine how that's happening inside of an example like in Tunisia. So thank you. I also want to ask you if you could just clarify or share your views a little bit about, you know, in the idea that we want things to move and continue this momentum in general, moving a little bit up and out of the local, regional, and more into the sort of global space. We know we have these large global goals like the SDGs and the climate goals. What do you feel like is something that we, you know, what are some of the key challenges and gaps that we need to still kind of unlock? I think we should make a little note of some of the things that we still need to have a look at in order to kind of continue this momentum that's been started.
Sure. Yeah. And yeah, I follow your point. And I think there's also some opportunities to create synergies among different value chains. For example, if we remind what I was explaining in Morocco, we have experienced that fish byproduct can actually create a fertilizer and improve the yields and the crops. And on the other hand, when we did the value chain mapping and the aquaculture value chain, there is a segment that is producing alternative fish feed proteins. And these fish feed proteins are actually made of agro-food leftover, vegetable, fruits that are not suitable for human consumption, can actually be processed by insects, like the black soldier, to name it, and can create fish feed of very good quality, protein quality. And then if we look at, so we can have the agro value chain that can then serve the aquaculture value chain throughout aquafeed. And then at the end of the day, the aqua farmer is producing fish. So out of the fish byproducts, we can generate again a fertilizer that is helping the agro-food value chain to increase yields and to go against water scarcity. So exactly as you explained, if we zoom out, we can connect the dots and we can have these two value chain working in a pure symbiosis and in a pure circular way. So there is tremendous opportunities if we look in the long term, and we just have to unlock those opportunities and foster collaboration.
I think that that's something that the circular lens gives us, right? When you're looking at things just very head on, you only see maybe the efficiencies that are directly linked into this, you know, small linear space. But when you're able to put on the circular approach and the circular lens, you can begin to see these relationships between businesses, as you're talking about, or between sectors. So thank you for bringing that. I would like to ask you, Alessandra, what are your thoughts about the ways that we can continue to create or sustain, maybe use a better way because it's already started, sustain this enabling environment for the blue economy in this region and beyond?
Look, what we say is that indeed we have been piloting a lot, but by now we have indeed to capitalize to upscale. So what we need is to create the critical mass so that the mechanism goes on its own. And this is actually already happening. What we are doing on our side, and of course with the SwitchMed, that this has been done in collaboration over the past 10 years, is indeed to mobilize all the possible resources around this process. What I wanted actually to go back to is indeed what we put together are processes and projects that feed each other in order to reach and tackle the many different sectors blue economy entails. What we are also adding, let's say, to this is an important point that was also in the ministerial declaration, indeed, the sustainable finance. Just very recently, the UFM, together with some IFIs, has been setting up the Blue Med partnership. Is indeed a partnership by IFIs in order to promote investments, because again, their sustainable economy is opening another era of investments. We go from the most, let's say, classical one, which are more environmental related, wastewater plants, waste plants, and so on, to more innovative type of investments, which are touching upon areas that so far were not included. I'm referring to reconversion of ports, electrification, indeed the digitalization, all areas which are there are need to be addressed. I mean, we are also, in the ecosystem decade, so it's very important also to keep it very clear in mind. And again, all these opportunities are also to be still unlocked and tackled in the years to come.
Well, I feel personally a sense of optimism and I feel that getting a chance to speak with both of you is really helpful, because we're seeing what is happening. And I think that from there, we understand that there is a lot of collaboration and partnerships taking place. There is trust building happening. There are positive examples that are working and measurably showing the positive impacts of having this sustainable blue economy. From there, we continue. We continue with the innovation. We continue with the enabling environments, with the finance, and we continue to see a way forward that we are working not only in this region, but for the global level to really make it to that goal of the low carbon, just, and sustainable future. So I very much appreciate you both joining us today. And I want to remind our listeners that we will include in our show notes a lot of links so that you can know about the work of our guests and continue to learn about the projects that they're involved in. And we will listen again and hear again on the next episode of SwitchMed Connect.